Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to open our conference. I would like to specifically draw your attention to the fact that this is the 20th conference, which is hosted by the Higher School of Economics, so it's sort of an anniversary. And we are happy that our section on science, technology, and innovation studies has become also a tradition within this conference. We are glad to welcome our participants, including our traditional partners from all over the world who have been attending our conferences regularly, and also our new visitors with whom we would like to establish further extensive collaborations. So our section is planned for the next 3 days, and we have quite an intensive program which includes a variety of issues. So as before, the first day will be devoted to foresight, which is one of the major areas of our activity, and we hope to discuss both practical exercises implemented in various countries, but also specific methodological issues, since foresight has been already very different from what it was, say, 10 or 15 years before. Tomorrow, the whole day will be focused on the issues related to science, technology, and innovation policies. So we'll be discussing new challenges related to science and technology and policy responses to various issues, even beyond science and technology, how science and technology policies have to cover the issues related to economic and social and the environmental impacts, among other things. The third day will be more focused on the international dimension, international outreach of science, technology, and innovation. There will be several sessions devoted to science and technology collaboration between the countries membership the Eurasian Economic Cooperation Council Association, and also in parallel there will be a session, which is quite a specific session, devoted to a new development project run by several businesses to establish a new technopole in the city of Voronezh. So it's quite a specific project where we are engaged, and we are going to discuss it with the invited experts. So, having said that, I would like to once again welcome you to our conference, and I would like to give a floor to Alexandr Chulok, who will present our recent results related to the new science and technology foresight for the Russian Federation. Please.
Thanks a lot. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. So, should I continue in English or in Russian? If everybody feels all right, so everybody feels happy with English, so let's continue with English. So, I'd like to welcome you here, and let's speak a lot about our S&T Foresight 2030, and I'd like to follow three major directions. So first of all, let's think a bit what consists decision making in modern STI policy. And then I'd like to show a few details of S&T Foresight methodology, and then we move to some challenges and a few tricky questions of foresight. I see there are a lot of people quite close to foresight topics, and I hope you'll help me to answer these tricky questions as well, because I've been asking these questions for around 20 years. So maybe I'll address these questions to you. So the first idea is to see what constitutes decision-making process in our modern world. And I think that topics of Nobel Prize winners could be a nice reference to see and to understand how all this demand from key stakeholders was evolving. As you can see, we start from understanding modeling, dynamics, efficiency. Then we move to behavioral economics, economics of trust, institutional economics by Douglas North as well. And the last works include ideas of sharing economy, sandbox economy, economy of trust, and deeper understanding how innovations could be a part of our everyday life. Of course, you can say that Nobel Prizes, they are given in some time lag. It could be even 10 or 15 years, but anyway, it demonstrates how demand and how ideas in the society were evolving. Foresight could 100% respond to all these challenges. It started from pure economic forecast and macroeconomic modeling. Then it moved to ideas of efficiency and competitiveness. Then global challenges and searching for ground responses. And now we can say that we move to foresight 3E. It should be ethical, it should be ecological, and it should create ecosystems, like sandbox economy as well. So, if we want to understand how foresight is evolving and how methodology is evolving, we can use big data analysis. And I'd like to show you a map. It's a semantic map which was drawn by our intelligent foresight analytics system, i4. As you can see, foresight is moving into two basic directions. So first direction could be explained like methods, scenario, case studies, delta analysis, big data implementation. And another direction is effects. So in what sphere do we want to implement our foresight studies? As you can see, a very huge cluster of climate change, because it's a very complex topic. For sure, foresight could be very efficient in dealing with very complex topics, where that's lots of stakeholders, different directions, multidisciplinary methods, etc. So, what constitutes modern foresight and what is happening in Russia? Let's have some comparison. I'd like to start with 5 major trends in foresight studies in modern world. So first, we move from episodic research of some separate topics to creating ecosystems. If you can take a look at foresight studies in Europe, in Canada, in Brazil, in China, in Japan, they move from some hero movement, when you make a foresight like a hero, to everyday life. So foresight is an everyday activity. It's a routine from this respect. Second, we see how we move from specific methods like Delphi method or scenario-based method to a complex agenda, agile, smart methodology. It's very important, which could be implemented into different cases. Then we move from senior expert domination like, right, Google said, or Microsoft said, or Facebook thinks, to a big data analysis. But the question is, do we know what big data means? And can we move from just IT concept of big data to implementing it into policy making? This is very important. 2 more things. We move from knowledge for unique, like foresight exercise for heroes, to knowledge for everyone and for everybody, like crowdsourcing, crowdfunding, and foresight based on crowds, blockchains, and understanding how foresight could be implemented in everyday life for every person, including you and including all the society. And the last, but not the least, we see how the focus is moving from pure technology and technological priorities to society, societal orientation, and to the nature and to understanding how the use of nature could be rational. So what can we see in Russia? I could tell you that there are 3 stages of foresight in Russia. The first stage was no need after perestroika time, because we were not sure in our present how we can spoke about the future. The second stage was we could do it. Why not? Let's try. Let's try different methods. Let's try different cases. Let's try different foresights. Why not? And now, foresight activity and strategic activity, future forward activities are like a must. So everybody wants to have a foresight on board, but just a few knows how to do it in a proper way. That's a tricky thing. What can we see? What can we observe in Russian STI policy agenda? What's moving? First of all, for sure, it's national projects. It's very important to understand that these national projects are unique in modern Russian history. Unique from budget, unique from topics, from KPIs. But the question is, do we understand that these national projects are just a part of the whole system or not? Because we are trying to set the loop, systemic loop, which is very important, but not some precise cases. We see how regions are trying to be a part of this race. They do regional clusters, they do regional technoparks, technopolises, centers for high competencies and skills. But the thing is that regional development should be smart. It should be smart specialization in regional development using foresight activities. And how could we place these region activities in the whole landscape is a really tricky thing. And I can tell you that it's not, from my point of view, it's not a proper way to search for golden pill. A few years ago, everybody was talking about nanotechnologies. 2 years ago, everybody was talking about blockchain and ICO. Now everybody is talking about digital transformation. Everything is digital. But they're just some parts of the whole system. And without systemic view, we cannot set the whole future. All right, so saying that, I'd like to move from global agenda to what we are doing in the foresight in Russia. So we move from separate methods like modeling, delta analysis, scenarios, in-depth interviews, to very huge foresight methodology, which includes quantitative methods, which includes a combination of different foresight methods. And we set a few principles like engagement, evidence-based, coordination, and big data analysis. These 4 principles helps us to do our foresights efficient, agile, smart, and integrated into decision-making process. So I'd like to tell you a few words about a concrete project which was lasting for more than 10 years, Russian National Science and Technology Foresight. First of all, 5 years ago, our government approved a unique foresight which includes in top 5 foresights of the whole world, according to OECD report. And you can download from internet. It's free to use. And I'd like to show a few differences between this foresight and what we can see now. This foresight is being set to the government, and we hope that it will be approved in a few weeks or maybe in a few months. So first of all, we move from just science direction to economy sectors and to different technological understanding the in-depth horizontal platform technologies like ICT, energy, transport, to some unique social, economic aims and agendas in technological development, like health, like nature, like nanomaterials. Another difference between the version of 2014 and in current version is that we move from no figures and no scenarios. In official version, you find no scenarios and no figures. In current version, I hope that you'll see STI indicators on more than 11 topics. You'll find 2 scenarios, and you can see figures, which is very important into integration. And the last thing I'd like to emphasize, this current version of STI Foresight is synchronized with all strategic documents in Russian Federation, including social economic development forecast, national projects, national strategies, industrial strategies. So it's indeed a heart of strategic system in Russia. And I think it's very important role of it. So now let's move and see a few methodological approaches that we used. We start from understanding the current situation of STI policy and global trends. Then we moved to scenarios like a policy response to global challenges and our capabilities, and moved to 2 different but linked foresights. A foresight for economy, for sectors, and foresight for STI. So we used push and pull method to understand how technological push could move forward economy and how economic demand could be met by new technologies. And then again, we moved to implementing and improving STI policy. All right? So then I'd like to show you a few movie which includes our I4 system, and it's a really new stage in big data analytics. It could include millions of different documents and answer to all foresight questions like global trends, prospective markets, new technologies, new skills, and implementing in the decision-making process. You can see how I4, its intelligent foresight analytics, could construct different market forecasts. It could implement into decision-making process, and now it includes Russian, English, and we are moving to Chinese model as well. So this is one of a result of I4, which we used in our foresight, activity. It's a semantic map for Internet of Things topic. Everybody is speaking about Internet of Things like a pure ICT topic, and you could see it in blue. But if you use a big data analytics, you can see at least 2 more clusters, like effects of ICT. The first effect includes cyber and cyber security, different coins like Bitcoin, Ethereum, cryptocurrency, and moving to that direction. And another one is moving to virtual reality and smart city conception. So you see how just one topic, Internet of Things, and in our foresight we have around 100 different topics like ICT of Things and Internet of Things, is moving from pure direction to very multidisciplinary effects. So another result of a foresight study is radar for global markets and prospective markets. We have more than 170 prospective markets and more than 250 traditional markets in our foresight study, and estimates for innovation products, almost for all sectors of economy. But I'd like to draw your attention on one very important thing in foresight studies, a wild card. We see how a wild card is moving from our future to our present. I can tell you from my opinion that all our life now is a wild card. But if you know it, you can be prepared. So the next result of foresight study is a scenario analysis. And we move from technological adoption as our basic scenario to technological leap, which we have to do. There's no way to go into global competitiveness. And we see how new technologies helps us to move this forward. So I have around 4 minutes, and I'd like to tell you about what we can see challenging in the foresight in Russia. First of all, we notice a huge increase in foresight articles and demand in Russia. It's a figure, left figure, is just for Russian words of foresight. And I think that we can ask 7 tricky questions. The first one is, we know everything without you. Why do we need a foresight? The answer is that if you think that you know everything, you know nothing. Another question is, prove it. And we moved from just expert analysis to evidence-based foresight. If you see how it's an evidence-based, you can prove it. My favorite question is about the accuracy. I can tell you that the accuracy of our foresight studies, we have a few investigations about that, is depending on the area, of course. It's from 85 to 95%. It's a really very accurate foresight. Another tricky question is why business is out of a game. A short answer is if it is interesting for business, it's always inside the game. So just make results interesting for business. So what's next? It's another tricky question. So what? Technological road mapping is the next question. It's the next step of foresight activities. Another question is why it takes so long and why it's so expensive. Just divide expenses of a foresight study into expenses for advertising or all your investments, and you see that it's nothing, including the whole budget of investments. If you do a wrong investment, you can spend 1 or 2% of this investment for a foresight which could make it in a proper way. And the last question is why it doesn't work? The answer is because you are doing it not in a proper way. We see how so-called foresight studies, like we meet for 2 hours on the foresight session and you say, all right, here's our foresight. It's not a foresight. It's not an evidence-based. So it's very important to speak about basic requirements for a good foresight study. So my last slide is about how we could move into foresight activities from long-term and short-term and internal and external position. I think that the first very important thing is to keep the institutional memory of our foresight, to make our methodology transparent and understandable for everybody. Next step should be connected into creating a foresight networks inside countries and outside, I mean international networks, international foresight academies, international foresight networks. It's very important. And the last, but not the least, is integrating a foresight activity in our everyday life. So it's my personal view, but I think that unless we integrate thinking about the future in our everyday life, like sports exercises, we do nothing. Thanks a lot, and see you in the nearest future. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Alexander. We have a few minutes for questions, if there are any, the audience. Please.
Where is this presentation? Where can we achieve this presentation?
Will be.
Must be shared.
Okay, it will be dependent on the participants, and if they will able to share, we'll place the presentation to our website. Okay. Any more questions? Okay. Thank you very much, Alexander. The next presentation will be made by Dr. Urashima from National Institute for Policy, Japan. It will be devoted to 11th Science Technology Foresight for Japan, contribution to the Science Technology Basic Plan. I can just introduce very briefly Japanese foresight. It's actually the oldest exercise which will be developed on the national level worldwide. The first science technology foresight, if I remember correctly, was performed in 1971. Yes, 1971. I have in my office actually Japanese foresight starting from number 4 foresight.
Oh, really?
Japanese foresight number 4. Maybe you don't have it.
I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. So it's a very interesting exercise, and they made a very high. They established very high quality standards for national science technology foresight studies. So the floor is yours. Kunico, please.
Thank you. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity again. I'm so happy to come back here. So today I'm going to talk about this our current activity of foresight. So I'm going to talk about two issues. First one is the history of our foresight and also science and technology policy. Then I'm going to talk about our foresight activities. Okay, now all of science and technology policy is going based on Science and Technology Basic Plan, which is started in 1996. The first one was just we make some brief idea of entire policy, science and technology policy. Then from the second one, we made some priority field, which is life science, information, and energy. Environment and nanotechnology. So we kept this prioritized area for 10 years. Then, since fourth one, we completely changed the design of science and technology design. Because at that time we had a huge earthquake in Japan. So therefore, also we had we find it that our population has been decreasing since then, and also we our life is longest in the world, and but we have a low number of young people. So which means our government income is going to be reducing, and also we have to consider about those issues. That's why we completely changed the design of science and technology from the fourth one. Then now we are faced on fifth one, which is we call Society 5.0. Because as I mentioned that we have a long life. But the people who should be to live healthier, so not staying at the hospital. So that's why we needed to make such a strategy. So for example, now also the people is buying products through the internet. So therefore, delivery people is also getting elderly, and we need to reduce CO2 emission, which means probably drone will be deliver the products to your home. So such a issue is including this Society 5.0. But now we are going to make a new one, which is starting from 2021. So we have 2 more years, but we need to finish all the foresight analysis by end of this year. So this is the history of our foresight activity and relating to the Science and Technology Basic Plan. Actually, Dr. Sokolov already mentioned that our foresight activity started to 1971, so it's almost nearly half century. So, but that time we focused on only technology because we needed to catch up technology level to the like United States or Germany or so on. But now it's really different because we are kind of mature country, so we need to consider about more social issue more than before. So because we have many technologies already. So therefore we have now designed this 11th foresight survey. Okay. Normally when we start this national foresight survey, it takes 2 years. So as I said, that we must finish this by end of this year. So therefore, we already started this project in 2017. And this is the horizon scanning. We need to know the current situation. Therefore, first, the horizon scanning is very beginning. We need it, do it. Then also we need vision. We need to make a good vision. Because, as I already mentioned, that we have a technology, but we don't know how to use it and how to enhance those technologies. So therefore, we needed to know what is a vision. So we had many workshops. I will explain later. Then now we are faced on this technology foresight, which we call Delphi survey. Okay, we just finished this survey. So, and I cannot give you the detail because we just finished. So then, based on this visioning and Delphi survey, we are going to make a scenario. So now we are also faced on this making a scenario as well. Okay, so this is the time frame when we are think about each part of foresight survey. The horizon scanning is from now to up to 2040, but visioning is we focused on future only, not now. Then Delphi survey, which we call science and technology foresight survey, the survey is from now to up to 2050. What kind of technology we need, or we should enhance, or we should develop, something like that. So then, based on these two, as I mentioned, we need to make a scenario. Then, based on this scenario, we need to make some suggestions or a strategy for that. Okay, so I'm going to introduce horizon scanning. We developed this software by ourselves, and we call Kizashi. Kizashi, we call this, Kizashi means by Japanese is weak signal. So we are scanning and analysis, and based on this news, we make some short announcement. Then we need to get some comment, so on. So I am going to tell you the more detail by here. Okay. So our software can collect 300 institutions and university site every day to make some. Then we can make some text mining. Then we can collect many data analysis for that. We call using AI. So, then, as I said, that we can make some short notice. Then we put this short note on the website, our website. Then we try to collect some opinion from citizens or scientists and so on. Then we can get more information based on this idea. Then we can analyze that. So this is who is involving this Kizashi system. Actually, we have our own network, which is this one. It's basically many the scientists whose background is life science is involving our system, but not only those people, but ICT, environment, so on. So everybody is joining our system as well. Then we put this news to the Facebook as well. Then unfortunately, we have only Japanese, but you can maybe find some news from there too. Okay. Then I'm going to talk about the visioning, which is part 2. As I said, this visioning is very, very important for our future. So, therefore, foresight should be the sorry. Okay. Because foresight is intermediate between policymakers and also stakeholders. So therefore, we set up many workshops, which is regional, technology, integrated, and international conference, so on. So therefore, we needed to know their idea and their desirable future. So so that's why we set up this workshop. I will tell you a little bit detail of this workshop. We set up this regional workshop at the four towns, and also we needed to know the technology future vision. So then also we needed to summarize this regional vision and also technology vision. So therefore we needed to make an integrated workshop. Then we made a summary for that. Okay, so we set up this 4 areas for this vision workshop, because that time we set up the theme aging society and low carbon society. Because aging society require more energy than the before, because aging people staying at home, so which means they require more energy. But we need to reduce CO2 emission. So that's why this was kind of really big challenge of the theme. So for example, and Japan is very long island, as you know. So and each area has a different circumstance and situation. However, most of policy determined in central government, which is in Tokyo area. But this is not good. Local government should consider and should decide their own policy. So therefore, we set up such a workshop, and we invite people from local government, and who is inviting local citizens and scientists and financial people. Then we made such a workshop for areas. Then each area made own future vision, which is just an example for that. So it's and visioning is very important. So we draw their vision as like this, as a cartoon. So and also we needed to make some national future vision workshop. So we invited 100 people from entire our country, whose background is scientists. So they normally consider about their own technology, but they never think about the future vision. So that's why we invited them, and we said, okay, what kind of future you want to develop? So then, what kind of technology you can provide for the future vision? So this is a big challenge for that. But this was very, very important. So therefore, this was really good exercise, especially for the scientists as well. Okay, so and also we needed the international workshop. You know some more people in here. So then I'm going to talk about this part 3, which is the survey. Okay. We need to cover entire of science and technology issue. So therefore we set up 7 areas, which is health, agriculture, environment, ICT, materials, city, infrastructure, and space, ocean, so on. And we had this survey from 20th of February to the 25th of March. So that's why I said we just finished this one. So this was the questions for all of topics. Okay, this topic, how importance and how international competitiveness, and when this technology will be realized at laboratory scale, which is technology, and when this technology will be in the market. So there is the time difference between technology and the market. So if this time lag is longer, then government must fund this period, which is not good. Not everybody is happy. So that's why we need to make some short this period. That's why we need to know what is the challenge of the technology realization time and for marketing as well. So that's why we needed to ask, do you need the health, human resources or budget or so on. Okay, so this is the detail of the area, the field. As I said, the health is including medicine, medical, so on. And agriculture is including so on. So we covered all of science and technology issues for that. Okay. So we set up 7 fields, and each area has about 100 topics. So totally we set up 702 topics. And we just analyzed who answered for our question, and this is the result. So first of all, we asked them, okay, please register first. So 8,600 people registered, but 6,600 people answered for our question. And basically, 40s and 50s is major answer for that. And we need to get the more female answer for that. And this time, unfortunately, we couldn't get the many answers from industry sector. Basically, we got the only academia side. And this is also, we got the answer to which area. So most of answer was health issue. Unfortunately, we couldn't get the many answer for the infrastructure issue. So, as I said, that we just finished this survey, so I couldn't give you the more detail. So, but if you invite me again, I will give you the data analysis next time. Okay, but from here. Okay, this is the previous results. We already announced this one, so you can download this one. So, as I said, we have such topics for 702, and we can get something like this results, and also we can get something like this result time, laboratory scale, realization time, and the market, so on. Then also we can get something like this. Strategy, like a we need human resource or budget or so on for each areas. And also we can get how important and how international competitiveness of those things. Okay. Then based on that, we can make some scenarios. So, but the scenario making is also very big challenge for us. How to make a frame of this scenario. So I want to get some idea from you too. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, much Winston. Maybe we'll ask questions in the end of this session because we are a little bit running out of time. Okay, so thank you very much. The Japanese experience is extremely interesting. And then our next presentation will be about China. No, it will be about we have another presentation. You will be the last one. Okay. So the next presentation will be devoted to the National Science Foresight in China. It will be made by Sifei from Chinese Academy of Science and Technology for Development. Okay, Sifei, the floor is yours.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Well, my report is about technology foresight in China and how can I control? And the new round technology foresight of China. Well, firstly, brief introduce the technology foresight at the national level of China. Well, China hold 10th national level technology foresight in the past, and these activities were sponsored by 4 organizations. Ministry of Science and Technology of China, we call it MOST, and Academy of Chinese Academy of Science, Chinese Academy of Engineering, Chinese Academy of Science and Technology. Well, we can see the first line before 2000, only casted Ministry of Science and Technology, holding technology foresight at the national level, and after 2000, 2 organizations, and the second line, the red line, and 2015. There are 4 different organizations, and we, to some extent, formed foresight system, because Ministry of Science and Technology of China focus on the future strategy, about 10 years or 15 years in the future. The second organization, Academy of Science, they focus on road mapping, future direction of basic research, and Academy of Engineering, they focus on the future engineering technologies, and the last cast, they focus on the long future and building the corporate network between different groups. Well, this is details. And we can first take a glance at another institution's technology foresight. First, Chinese Academy of Science. Okay. This is the result in 2003 and 2008, future 20-year technology foresight, and from 2008 to 2009, technology road mapping, 2015. They have a series of products and have English version. And from 2014 to 2016 is a subject development of foresight. And the second organization, Chinese Academy of Engineering. Well, this is the first time they hold technology foresight, but this organization is very special. They have a large amount of budget, nearly $111 million, maybe 800 million rubles. Their budget is 3 times more than casted, and they involved 10,000 experts. This is the framework, the questionnaire, and some of the results. They have 11 fields, and they compared United States, European Union, Russia, and the UK, the strange technology. And finally, they get 25 key technologies. The fourth organization, this is Chinese Association for Science and Technology. They focus on long-term foresight. In 2015, they have a foresight about 2049, and they do some work to capture the future tendency. Okay, let's see our work. Ministry of Technology of Science and Technology and casted. Well, in 4 decades, we have different experience and different focus. In 1980s, we have a special agency named Technology Forecasting Bureau. Well, in this period, we translated the technology foresight methodology all over the world, and formed our own methodology system and training a lot of experts. We have in this period we have a technology foresight of 10 fields, but the 10 fields not doing it in one period in one circle. Is decentralized. Okay, so the first circle, and the second circle from 1992 to 1994. In this technology foresight, we have 4 files, 61 technologies, and finally we selected 24 technologies. We use this foresight target is to support the next 5 years planning. The deficiency is we failure to establish a detailed technology classification system. So technology are not equal size. Well, the third technology foresight from 1997 to 1999, 3 fields, information, manufacturing, and agriculture, 308 technologies, and finally we selected 128. After this, we think we grasp the how to use the Delphi method to doing technology foresight. The first time, 2003 and 2006, we used technology foresight to support mid and long-term technology planning. Well, this is the first time China have long-term technology planning, and they take technology foresight as a very important method. So the result is in 2003 we do foresight about 3 fields: information, biology, material. 2004 3 fields, and 2005 and 2006 3 fields. The planning is made until 2006, but at this point technology foresight haven't finished, so it just partly supported technology science and technology planning. Finally, we got a lot of results, field report and a route mapping report, but we make a successful foresight, but not a successful support for the planning. The fifth technology foresight from 2013 to 2015. Well, we have 14 fields and 3 stages. This foresight is surrounded by the need. So this foresight, we can see 3 stages, and different stage, different function. And the first stage, we make evaluation about China's technology level. We think 20% of technologies related to China is leading the world, and 30% just parallel from the leading level, and 50% of technologies lag behind, and 15.5% of technology at the same level of the leading level of the world. So we think China and the tipping point of so we can, if we wanted to make advantage of certain fields, we can do it. This is the map. We have more than 3,000 experts, and they made more than 5,000 questionnaires. And large-scale Delphi survey. The first circle, more than 62,000 questionnaires collected, and more than 16,000 experts participated in. The second round Delphi survey, more than 43,000 questionnaires collected in 6 months, and 13,000 experts joined this survey. And in the third period, key technology selection, we hold about 749 conferences and panels or meetings. This is key technology selection. First, we have 10,000 proposals, and at the beginning we have 2,087 technologies. The second circle 1787, and finally we have 280 key technologies. This technology are divided into most disruptive and most beneficial. Most disruptive means if we get this technology, we will get a new advantage. Most beneficial means if this technology can exist economic or social benefit. Well, this is the result. our technology foresight. Now we are launching the 6th round of technology foresight. We have 17 fields, and this foresight will support the 2nd round of mid and long-term science and technology planning. Well, the new round of technology foresight was launching at 15 February. It has a lot of characteristics. First, this is a large-scale expert participation Delphi research. And the formal technology foresight, we have more than 20,000 experts participated in the whole process. And in this circle, this round, the experts' participation will be maybe larger because we have 17 fields. And the former foresight, we have 14 fields. Secondly, we use a different group of experts because we wanted to get closely to the truth. The first, athlete experts and the integration experts. Well, a special group, academic or Chinese Academy of Science and Academy of Engineering. Well, they have a high level of knowledge and social position. This is athletes, and then we have an integrated experts of different institutions, ages, and titles. And secondly, close experts and open experts. Close experts, they have a close relationship between with Ministry of Science, Technology of China. About 10% of our total experts are closely experts. These experts are responsible, and we can tracing back, we can contact them, but we still think these experts know our mechanism. We worried about if they get ally and put their own idea into our system. So we make a balance, compare it from the registered experts and the local experts and experts with international background. We have a special group about 1,000-person program. The people from overseas universities get PhD degree or post-PhD degree. We don't have foreigner take part in the foresight, but we use this group to provide us with international vision. And the technology experts and the strategy experts. And the process of identify technology's basic elements, we mainly use technology experts. And the second phrase about explain interpretation about social value, economic value of technology, or some technology focus on certain problems. We combine the two groups of experts. And in the ranking process, we mainly use strategic experts. And we improved, upgraded our method system. The method system and the fifth technology foresight is quite complex, but we think some of the methods are not very useful, so we canceled some not practical methods. And in this round, we use intelligent platform-based intelligent platform. 3 platforms. First is open research platform. We capture the data from the internet, and we store it into 8 different data tank. And when we use it, we use this data. And the second platform is about assessment platform. We have a technology list, and every technology we have keywords. We put keywords into different database, and every technology we analyze it into different perspective and get a score. And the frontier system, because the patent and academic article, when it published, is too late to capture the frontier. So we make a strategic cooperation between elsewhere, listen his company, and he have a special indicator to provide us with the keywords attract the most attention. and they provided us with this keywords, and we use the keyword into the patient. Okay. And a long-term mechanism, integrated system for understanding global science technology development situation. And we conduct cross-cutting analysis innovatively. In this technology foresight, we built a very special domain. We have 14 domain and 5th technology foresight, and we added 2 regular domain. One is food, another is a modern service. And we have a very special domain we call the number 7 domain. This is an interdisciplinary research group. Because we have a surface survey, we have very strict regulation for every group. We will follow the same way, same method. So we have a special timeline of implication, and we have 4 group. And 12 steps. This is timeline. Thank you.
Okay. Very much, so it was a very interesting observation of the Chinese foresight, which we don't know, to be frank, a lot about. And I must say that CFA we will be staying in our institute, for next several months, so until the end of this year. So we hope to learn more and maybe to exchange some experience with the Chinese practitioners for science studies. Okay, our next presentation will be devoted to Brazil, actually, and it will be made by Marcio Miranda Santoush, director of the Center for Strategic Studies and Management in Science, Technology and Innovation in Brazil. And it will be devoted to water production through desalination in the Brazilian Northeast, approach to identify trends and technological solutions. So Mario, the floor is yours. Marcio, sorry.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much, Alexander, both Alexanders and Leonid, for inviting us to participate in the conference, which is always a pleasure, mainly because we have an environment of exchanging information, see how much groups doing foresight in the world are actually progressing. And I must say that based on what I just saw, there's a lot going on in terms of, not only in terms of employing new tools and methods, but also developing the conceptual framework for doing good foresight analysis on several topics. My approach this morning is going to be more focused on change that we are in our institution doing, recognizing that the topics that we're dealing with are moving so fast, are changing so fast, that instead of setting up priorities at a given point in time, we are moving from that to monitoring what's going on, because the changes are so quick that we have to be able to monitor what's going on in a given, as we call, a conceptual space associated to whatever topic we're dealing with. In this case, I'm going just to stress, because we have only 15 minutes to go through the presentation, that I'm going to take one of the biggest problems that we are facing in our country in the northeast of Brazil. As we know, the northeast of Brazil is a semi-arid region, and the biggest problem there is water production. There's a huge population living there, something close to 22 million people living without water or without enough water. So one of the key technologies is how to desalinate water from brackish water, from seawater, from atmospheric water. So what I'm going to tell you now is the methodological approach to monitor what's going on and foster technological development or technological collaborations between groups in order to allow for people to have access to water, which is one of the key issues, not only in the case of Brazil, but worldwide as well. So the center, just a few words about our center. It's what was created in 2001. It's a private institution linked to the government through contracts. And the main strengths are developing client-oriented processes. And I'm going to stress the word process, because in doing what we do, we have to be able to set the process that will answer key questions to be solved. Another strand is expertise in identification and mobilization of nearly 2,000 experts per year dealing with the topics we're dealing with. Develop foresight and evaluation methodologies to support science, technology, and innovation, as well as developing policies and large programs such as the desalination one I was just mentioning. And what I'm going to show briefly is in the evolution of the things that we do, we felt that it was extremely important to define what we call intelligence. And sometimes we do things without having the intelligence background to do it. I'm not saying that we are more intelligent than anyone. And, what I'm saying is that we have to look into the concept of intelligence and develop the methods that we are developing based on that. And that's what we call the STI intelligence cycle. That starts by, as we heard from previous speakers, data collection and storage, to explore, organize, and analyze data and information to produce the results, process evaluation, and move on, from time to time, following the same cycle as many times as required. And it's extremely important in our view to identify the vocabulary, the topics, and key issues. Behind this point in the intelligence cycle, we have to define what we call the conceptual space, because later on in the process, we are going to talk about semantic, but the question would be always semantic among what? So if you don't know exactly which terms, which terminology will define the scope of the problem, you are going to a large number of data without knowing exactly what we are going to collect. So you have to make the best effort you can to define what we call the space, conceptual space, in order to get a good representation of the state of the art in terms of the knowledge developed, in terms of a number of things associated to the topic you are actually studying. And based on that, you have to define the key question you have in mind. And the questions will vary a lot, depending on the objectives of the foresight study or the things that you're willing to monitor. So what is the question? What is the key question involved? In the example I'm going to show you, the question is, what are the key technologies employed to desalinate water? And based on that, we can ask also, who is doing what? Is Brazil collaborating with somebody in the world? Is somebody working in that field in our country or elsewhere? Is there space for collaboration in between institutions and people? A number of questions that will be answered if we follow correctly the intelligence cycle. Then we'll define the methodological alternatives in order to answer the questions. I'm going, a little bit quicker from now on, to identify the sources of information, to set the requirements for doing that in the process, So we have to select the tools we are going to use, either corporate or something which is available in the market, and continue by develop based on the conceptual space, what are the queries we are going to make in terms, or queries we are going to develop in order to go to the sources of information. Then we acquire the data, we select and analyze the attribute for analyzing the data, follow the classical ATL, extracting, transforming, and loading data in the process of creating, depending on the question, a key taxonomy that will represent the conceptual space we are dealing with. Then we specialize the taxonomy with the interaction with experts in the field, created the data set, process similarity, export similarity, and go through a process of exploring, identification of patterns, doing a statistical modeling, reprocess data if necessary, because if you're not happy with the results, then you probably have to go back in the previous steps of the process and do it again. And after that, to prototype the data product, to design a data product, to prepare the data product, and validate what you are actually going to have as a product to be delivered, and recommendations for improvement in the process. If you follow the intelligence cycle this way, this is a very short representation of that. There's a lot in each one of the points that I just mentioned, but then you are prepared to monitor. Then you are prepared to see what's going on over time. You're not going just to produce recommendations at one point in time, but you are going to see what's moving in relation to a given topic over time. And if there is something else that you have to change in terms of recommendation, if there is a new signal coming from the data that you have to pay attention, then do it. Because using the right tools and following the process, we are going to be able to follow what's going on, either on the scientific field, the technological field, innovation field, and relations between the three of them, and education when necessary. The key message here is that if you don't have a process well defined based on the intelligence cycle, it's very difficult for you to repeat. It's very difficult for you to say that you have quality in the things that you were doing. Because by developing a given process, you know how to start, and you know from the beginning where you're going to get. What's the final result of that? What is or are the deliverables of the things that you were doing? So it's extremely important in our point of view for each one of the studies that we do to develop a process like this one that tells you where to start and where you're going to get at the end. So very much like the things that ISAC HSE is actually doing, we have also developed corporate tools that would help specialists to analyze what we are going to get out of the sources of information. And this is just part of the process. It's not the whole thing. But in the case of desalination, we, as I mentioned before, we select some sources of information which are listed in that menu over there. And then in my case, in this case, I'm going to show you the results dealing with scientific and technological development, desalinated brackish water. Just part of the menu that we have there. Because we are willing to answer the question, who is doing what on the scientific domain and the technological domain as far as brackish water is concerned. And then you see, a number, in this case, of articles. I don't know if this is coming from Web of Science or not, but you can see the clusters of documents dealing with brackish water desalination. And then we can explore this universe of nodes and start understanding what's going on in a given point in time, or you can do the evolution of knowledge in this regard by using another feature of the two. But as you can see in this screen, you see a cluster, and you can look at the metadata associated to a given cluster. And the cluster will tell you who is doing what, the abstract of the paper, and so on and so forth, for the analyst to have access to more information, more detailed information on what's going on. But, most of the times, as most of you are actually dealing with, the number of documents might be huge, might be thousands of documents. And then you have to find ways and means to identify where to start. And by applying two algorithms, we can identify which one among the documents are the most representative or the most central one for you to start to understand what's going on in your analytical step. And again, you can select from that space of documents the clusters of which are more important for the things we are willing to answer. And by selecting the cluster to see what are the keywords and moving from the keywords to the documents and the other way around as well, you can get more information on which technologies or which people is doing advancements in science related to the issue you are exploring. And you can see from the left side of the screen, by clicking there, you will have immediate access to the document in order for you to understand what's going on in a given cluster of interest. As well, you can see the evolution of keywords, which is an important step for you to start tackling what are the main trends involved. If you have followed the intelligence cycle, you have a good conceptual space. Then we have select the key words that represent this conceptual space. Then you can monitor the evolution of keywords as far as desalination of brackish water is concerned over time. And also, as I mentioned before, there is a number of papers, and I select just 3 countries: Brazil, of course, Russia, because we are here, and USA, because USA is number 1 in terms of scientific production at Web of Science over time. So USA has 271 papers, Russia 17, Brazil 36, and so far no collaboration was identified between Brazil and Russia. There's a huge opportunity to improve that. And in our case, as you probably noticed from the media, that the Brazilian president went to Israel. And one of the key issues for collaboration is exactly that. Not brackish water, but mainly seawater desalination. But we told the president, not exactly the president, we told the people working with the president of Brazil, that perhaps Israel is not the best in this field. It's an important actor, it's an important country in this regard, but USA is much more important than Israel as far as brackish water technology development is concerned. So, if you click, I'm going to show you this network in 3D dimension. And what you're going to see, I don't know if this is clear from you, are the nodes and the edges between them that will show the evolution of this network over time. For you to understand the evolution of knowledge, in this case, as far as brackish water desalination is concerned. And every time that you click in one of the points, you have immediate access to who is doing what, the papers, and so on and so forth. So by doing analogies in between what you see in the screen and the universe, what you are seeing is the forces that link or separate, papers in a given conceptual space. And this evolves over time. These are extremely powerful in terms of identifying trends, either trends with positive signal or trends in negative signals. So you can navigate into the networks using a 3D representation in order to see who is where in this conceptual space. Analogies with the universes are very easy to be done, but please take care that we are dealing with a universe of documents in this case. But could be universe of institutions, universes of people, universes of documents, news, and whatever you are actually exploring. Well, this is just to show you that CGE, and in my presentation, that CGE, the Center for Strategic Studies in Brazil, is actually moving from a more time-defined approach to a monitoring approach in order to be able to catch up with what's going on in the world and on the issues we are actually interested in. So I thank you very much for your attention and for the invitation again.
Okay. Thank you very much, Marcio, for exciting presentation. Now we have a discussion. Matthew's panel. Yes, please join us. And Matthew will summarize what we talked this morning. And probably if we will have some questions to people who presented or to the discussion, so you will have a chance to do it. Please.
Okay. Thank you so much for the invitation. This is my first time at this conference, and I just would like to thank you to the conveners of the conference for the invitation to be here. It's quite a privilege to be able to watch such exceptional presentations in this first very opening session, and I think it's a good harbinger of what's to come in the rest of this conference. My name's Matthew Spaniel, and I'm from Aarhus University in Denmark, originally from the United States. And I won't take too much time because I'm sure that the audience here has been to conferences as such. I am a sociologist by training and specialize in scenario planning. So this is a bit outside of my field for the most part, but nevertheless, I'd like to offer some reflections. Overall, I think that I was really struck by the depth of the activities that's happening outside of the EU, right? So my primary domain where I look at is at the EU. In the EU, we're very much interested in industry foresight. That's, I think, the main point of departure that you'll see. We'll be looking very much from an industry's perspective. And to see it scaled up to this national policy level that we saw is quite exceptional for me. The question of how do we manage the information and the knowledge, not only in the documents and in the texts and in the patent applications, but in the heads of the experts out there that haven't really become explicit yet. And I think that the methods that we see up here today are really showing that we're going to catch up to this very quickly. The question remains then, what are we going to do with that information? And so I work in primarily corporate foresight and organizational foresight. So I'm very much interested in what the role is of the corporates in the industries, primarily the decision makers, right? So what I have as a question back to the panel, or to the presenters this morning is where is this role, right? Assuming that we're putting this effort forward, making these activities salient, where does this actually come in impact? There's perspectives that we use in the EU is that everything, is looking towards economic growth, right? And if we can do that economic growth in environmentally sustainable ways, if we can do that with ways that are systemic and that we can catalyze innovation amongst industry players, because we see the future very much in corporates as an organizational effort where we're going to network with the people and the companies that are able to bring pieces of that puzzle together to be able to unlock these market opportunities. So that's one thing that I saw. I think that the management of this data and the processes that are being undertaken are quite exceptional. We've had 700 fields from Dr. Urashima, right, that are under investigation, 2,087 fields from Dr. Shi, right? That level of aggregation, at what point does it become something of an unmanageable proposition? So I would challenge them to maybe perhaps expand on that a little bit more. The other interesting thing that I had to say about Professor Chulok's presentation is that we see 800 or so reports now coming out every year in foresight inside of Russia. And so the question of quality that you raise for the foresightist or the futurist or the strategic thinker, that there's always been this notion of it's better to be vaguely right than precisely wrong. And how would it be then that we're able to actually quantify the level of rightness that we have across 800 foresights? And if we take a naive extrapolation of that, in 5 years' time, right, we could have, double that amount, it seems like. So what is this activity level? Where's the commissioning of this coming from? And then what's the use of this? And is it then the job to aggregate then the insights of those documents? Or do those just float freely? Or are they primarily used inside of corporates? So that would be a question that I have. One very different presentation we had was from Dr. Santos, which somebody that in the corporate foresight world, we struggle with getting these messages out to the decision makers, right? And having them approve of our methods to verify and validate that what we're doing is actually based in some kind of rigorous approach. And so but again, the decision makers, right, face this notion of where do we invest from the corporate side? What should we invest in, right? Is this an avenue worth pursuing? And in many cases, is how do we change the organization to be able to follow these different opportunities that are out there? And so a large part of foresight in the corporate world is about changing the mental models or the paradigms or the perspective from which people are approaching the future. And so these get a little bit lost when we have a large aggregation of, say, Delphi studies. But yet in Dr. Urashima's talk, we talk about 700 different community engagements, which is quite interesting because there we have the chance to talk to industry, right? They're invited in as individuals, but yet what is it? And so I see the efforts being made to make this information and knowledge relevant for them and help them try to make decisions from their own frames. So those were just some observations, maybe a little bit around the board, but it's, again, to wrap it up, it's really, really interesting for me to see how routine this foresight activity has become, because I feel like I live in the world of ad hoc foresight, where there's a pressing issue or a crisis that needs to be solved, an organization that needs to change. But to see that there's rhythm in the foresight, to see that it's able to build up in its sophistication over time, and that we can move from one learning phase to the next learning phase is for me, very much an excellent and welcome observation that I have. So thank you again for the opportunity to discuss. And
Okay. Thank you very much, Matthew. I guess we have a break now. The refreshment will be served at the second floor, one floor down. I hope but that we can escape questions right now. We can ask our speakers during the break, okay? So, see all of you at exactly at noon, in 25 minutes. Следующая сессия начинается ровно через 25 минут, 12:00. Перерыв, вы можете сейчас что-то выпить и съесть немножко на втором этаже нашей столовой.